Hey guys, it's Lauren, and today I'm going to teach you how to make peppermint French macarons, or depending on how you say it, peppermint macaroons. Fun fact though, there actually is a difference. Macarons are the little sandwich cookies, and macaroons are the little balls with shredded coconut. Either way you say it, they're still delicious. So I'm going to be completely honest with you, making macarons is not super easy. It's probably the one recipe that I very strongly recommend investing in a food scale. There's a lot of different variables that can affect your macarons, and you really don't want your ingredients and weighing them out to be one of them. So for starters, I've measured out some of my dry ingredients. First, I have 200 grams of super fine almond flour that I've sifted through twice, and sifting your ingredients is super important so you get that nice glossy top on your cookies. Then I also have 150 grams of powdered sugar, which I have also sifted twice. And then I have 150 grams of granulated white sugar that we're going to put in our egg whites later. You're going to need 140 grams of egg whites, which is about 4 egg whites. Then you're also going to need a half a teaspoon of coarse kosher salt and a half a teaspoon of cream of tartar for a stabilizer. Oh, and I forgot to mention, but it's super important that you get your egg whites at room temperature. Of course, using some food coloring to get that cute peppermint swirl is optional, but if you do, I used Americolor Super Red Gel Food Coloring. For our yummy filling, our peppermint buttercream, you're going to need 2 sticks or 1 cup of softened butter, 454 grams of powdered sugar, then you're going to need 3 teaspoons of peppermint extract and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Once you have all of your ingredients, grab your Christmas sweater or your Christmas apron and let's get started. All right, so first we are going to add our 140 grams or 4 egg whites. And then we're just going to fit our mixer with our whisk attachment, and then we're just going to whisk these until they become foamy. All right, and once our egg whites are pretty foamy like this, we're going to add in our half a teaspoon of coarse kosher salt, and then our half a teaspoon of cream of tartar for a stabilizer. Then we're just going to continue to mix all of this together, and then we're going to slowly add in our 150 grams of granulated white sugar as it goes. As you can see, I sort of wait in between each tablespoon of sugar that I add just to make sure that it gets fully dissolved. It's also not a bad idea to just scrape the sides of your mixing bowl. As you can see, some of the little sugar particles, they miss the actual egg white mix, so just shove those in there to make sure that they also get incorporated. Also, if you wanted to color your macarons, not the stripe design that we're doing for these peppermint ones, now would be the time to add a few drops of color. But we're actually going to keep whisking this until we get really sharp, rigid peaks. All right, so it's looking good, but it's not quite there yet. Also, I've been mostly mixing this on medium speed, so that's about setting 4 on my KitchenAid. But if you're doing a medium speed and it's not really quite getting there, feel free to bump yours up a little bit. But we're just gonna whisk it a little bit more. All right, so we're just gonna do a little check if it stays. Okay, so we want it to stay sharper than that. You see how when I grab it, it kind of just falls, it gets droopy. So we want it to be like a sharp, rigid point. So we're gonna keep it going just a little bit longer, but definitely don't walk away from your mixer. You wanna keep an eye on everything. Ooh, look at that. Here we are. Yes, this is money. That's what you want. All right, now this is arguably the most important part of making macarons. So we're going to add our almond flour and powdered sugar mixture, and then we're just going to fold in our ingredients. So if you've seen Schitt's Creek, you know the whole fold in the cheese bit. Well, I'm going to show you how we're going to fold in our almond flour powdered sugar mixture to our meringue. And the trick to this is you want to do about 50 stirs. So hopefully you're counting, I'm talking. But you want to do about 50 to 70 stirs. The trick here is really to not overwork it. So if you can, try to like scrape around the bowl and fold it in. Sometimes, yeah, you're gonna have to get your fingers a little dirty because it's gonna stick. For the most part, try to just fold and count. Okay, so that's a little bit more what we're looking for. You kind of like want to be able to draw something, so like to scoop it up and maybe a little bit more, but you want it to kind of trickle off your spatula. All right, that's a little bit more of the consistency that we're looking for. So now we're going to move on to the next step. So pretty soon here, we're going to pipe our macarons onto our baking sheet. And I also wanted to mention it's really helpful to get one of these silicone mats, especially the ones that have the outline, because that way all of your macarons will be the same shape. That way when you're going to sandwich them, you don't have one that's like super tiny and one that's huge. So this way, all of your sandwiches will go together. However, if you don't have a silicone mat, it's totally fine to use parchment paper. Now I'm going to show you how we get that cute peppermint swirl. So of course, you're going to need a piping bag fitted with a round tip. This one is a number 10. Then you're also going to need some cling wrap, plastic wrap, and then of course we're going to need our red food coloring, and it's helpful to have a little paintbrush. All right, so basically we're just going to pull out a piece of cling wrap. We want it to be just a little bit longer than our piping bag, but we don't want it to stick out too far. Then we're just going to spread that out. You don't have to do it on top of your baking sheet. I just thought it would be easier to see because I have black granite. All right, and then you're just going to take a couple drops of your food coloring just along your cling wrap. And then finally, we're going to take our paintbrush and just paint a little bit of a line. Also, depending on the size of your piping bag, you might have to do this a couple of times. You could reuse the same plastic wrap and bag, but then you're not going to get that really clear swirl on your macarons. All right, and once you have painted out your red line, we're going to take our macaron batter and we're just going to line it on our plastic wrap. And then I recommend putting your piping bag into a cup. That way when you're putting in this like loaf of macaron batter, it's not going to fall all over the place. Just make sure that that doesn't happen. Make sure that your tip is really secure. So maybe like put the tip in there sideways so you know it's not gonna pop out. And then we're just basically going to wrap this up. But you wanna make sure that one end remains open, and then you can kind of twist the other end so that it stays shut. And then you're just gonna stick it in your bag, kind of like a loaf. So it looks kind of funky in there, but that's what you want it to look like. And just make sure to hold the end so that nothing pops out. And now we're just going to pipe out our macaron. And you're just gonna do it in a circular motion. Now that we've piped out all of our macaron shells, we're going to let them sit and dry on the tray for about 1 to 2 hours. Basically, you just want to let them dry so that when you put a finger on top, nothing sticks to it. And in about the last 30 minutes of your macaron shells drying, don't forget to preheat your oven to 300 degrees. While we wait, we're going to work on our peppermint buttercream filling. All right, so first we're just going to add our 1 cup of softened butter, and we're just going to cream that until it becomes smooth and fluffy. And next, we are going to start incorporating our powdered sugar. And again, this is 454 grams. Also, you can totally just dump yours in. I just have made a mess doing that before. All right, and then we are going to add our 3 teaspoons of peppermint extract and our 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Now we're just going to cover our buttercream filling until we go to fill our macarons, and then we'll put it in a piping bag. Holidays stressing you out? Well, grab your spoon or rolling pin because we're gonna beat the crap out of some peppermint candies. But in all seriousness, we do need some peppermint crumbs because we're going to roll the sides of our macarons in them. I'm pretty sure this is like the baking equivalent of therapy. Alright, now that all of my macaron shells have completely cooled, I've matched up like-sized pairs, and now we're just going to fill them with some of our peppermint buttercream that we fitted in a piping bag with a number 10 round tip. So we're just going to go around the edges, and it's really important to get pretty close to the edge that it's almost sticking off just a little bit, because that way we'll have a lot of buttercream that'll just kind of squeeze right out when we put the top on, and then we're going to roll it into our crushed peppermints. And then because that buttercream is sticking out like that, it's gonna stick to it. And then you get this super cute peppermint macaron. So now we're just going to repeat that with the rest of our macaron shells. And there you have it, you guys, peppermint macarons. I know these are super tricky. I struggled so many times before I finally got it. So if you have any questions, don't be shy. Feel free to leave me a question in the comments. If you liked what you watched today, make sure to hit subscribe for more 12 days of Christmas desserts. As always, you can find my full written recipes on my website, hueeatswithyou.com. Happy eating! If you make my peppermint macarons, make sure to take a picture and tag me at hueeatswithyou on Instagram.